Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. Today we are going to be preserving strawberries. As you can see, we have a whole bunch of strawberries here. We have 6 flats of beautiful strawberries that are very much in need of being preserved because they are going to turn any second if I leave them. So we came back from the coast yesterday and I was able to buy these for a pretty good price on our way back home. I can grow strawberries here, but it's not something that I have put a lot of effort into over the last few years to make a really good strawberry bed. Maybe that'll be something for next year. My focus has been primarily on creating the forest garden and focusing on vegetable production. So I do buy my strawberries. I am going to be canning some plain, which I haven't tried doing before. We are going to make some pie filling. I think we're going to make a bunch of different kinds of jams, and we're also going to freeze dry some strawberries. So lots of strawberry fun today. There are a few things that I do to organize myself for a large preserving day like we're going to do today, just to make it a little bit less of an issue because sometimes I can feel a little harried by the afternoon when I'm doing a big preserving day like this if I don't have things really well organized. So as you can see, I have all of my jars prepped over here, the equipment that I'm going to need for today's recipes. Underneath you here, I have all of the ingredients laid out for all the recipes that we're going to do today. And in my books, I went through my books last night and marked off all of the pages for the recipes that we're going to use today. So that really helps to just keep everything organized and flowing in a good direction, and so that I don't feel like I'm going to tear my hair out by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. One of the other things that I do is keep food super easy on days like today. So we're going to be having sandwiches for lunch today. For supper, we're going to pull something out of the freezer and just reheat it, because canning can heat up the house. We don't want to be doing a lot of cooking today. So those are kind of the prep things that I do. I do have a really good canning guide that you can get by signing up for my email list in the description box below and in the pinned comment. It's pretty comprehensive. I think it's around 40 or 50 pages or so, with lots of information about planning for big bulk canning days like this, and also just food preservation in general. The first thing that we're going to need to do, of course, is to get all of these strawberries washed. So normally I like to soak my strawberries for around 20 minutes or so in some water with a little bit of vinegar in it, and then just give them a really good kind of agitation in the water, rinse them off, and we're good to go. So I've already started doing that with these strawberries here. Aren't they beautiful? Just gorgeous strawberries. And I was really happy when I tried these strawberries when we were at the market, because the flavor of them is just absolutely fantastic. They actually taste like a freshly picked strawberry right out of my garden. I do have a few strawberry plants out there, just not a big patch. So I was really excited about that. So we're going to get these all washed up, and then of course I'm going to need to take all of the leaves off and hull them. So there's kind of a hard part in a strawberry. You guys probably know this, but I'll explain it anyway. Right here, so you want to cut that part out when you're going to preserve strawberries, even if you're going to blend them up, because this part can have a little bit of a bitter flavor to it. So we're going to wash and hull all of these strawberries. So a little splash of vinegar in there, and this is a good opportunity for us to go through our strawberries and pull out anything that might not be looking good. I was so happy with these because there's just really not that many that are not looking edible. So that is fantastic. And even if they're super ripe, like this one, and starting to soften just a little bit, there's a bit of softening there, I'll still use those strawberries because we're going to be making jam. So we're going to be mashing them all up anyway. We just don't want any mold or anything in there, of course. But these are just looking so great. I'm very pleased. Normally when I buy strawberries up where we are, they have been imported and there's always moldy ones, but I have not found a single moldy strawberry in all of these strawberries that we bought, which is fantastic. Whoops. I have this bowl of strawberries here that I washed and soaked a little bit earlier, so I'm going to get to hulling these ones now. And when I have this many strawberries, I'm a little bit ruthless about it. I'm not as concerned about saving every little bit of strawberry. So instead of taking my knife and kind of going around like this, hulling them, I just cut off the tops like that, because it makes it much faster. And all of these little pieces will go out to my chickens and they will be very happy. So I don't know about you, but when I go to a farm or anywhere that I'm going to be buying fruit from, my eyes are kind of bigger than my capacity sometimes. And one of my friends said, when I told her how many I purchased last night, she was like, I think you're probably going to regret that come tomorrow when you have to actually preserve all of it. But my future self will thank me for all the work that I have to do today. So I'm going to get these done. I am going to get some help to do all of these, because obviously it would take me on my own a very long time to get all of these hauled. But as soon as we have this done, I shall be back with you and we will start making some really fun recipes. Okay, the first two recipes that we're going to do, I'm looking forward to doing. One is a vanilla strawberry jam, which I've made before and is really good. And then we're also going to try a new one, which is a strawberry mango jam. They did have some mangoes for sale and they were nice and ripe at the market, so I did get a couple of those in anticipation of making this recipe. The first thing that I'm going to do in anticipation of some of the jam recipes we're going to make is get my strawberries in a bowl, and I'm going to add some sugar to this. I'm not going to measure it here. I'm just going to make sure that there's enough sugar that all the strawberries are fairly evenly coated. And then I'm going to set this aside so that the juices can start being extracted with the sugar. And I find doing this, and you'll find this if you look up, most strawberry jam recipes recommend this because the flavor of the jam is just better for whatever reason, whatever the science is behind why this works. So we're gonna add a little bit of organic, I say a little bit, a lot, because we're jam making, so we're gonna use a lot of sugar. Some sugar, organic cane sugar into here. We are gonna grab a spoon and mix these up. If you are going to be using any other type of pectin, or even if you're not using pectin at all and you're just using strawberries and sugar, you want to make sure that you measure out the amount of sugar that's required for the recipe. Otherwise, it's not going to set up well. With Pomona's pectin, you can actually use a lower amount of sugar. You can even use honey or other types of sweeteners, and it will still thicken. So that's why I'm not measuring out the sugar here, just enough to pull the juices out and sweeten these up a little bit. I find that even if I am doing something that I want to be very low sugar wise, I still will add a little bit to it with strawberries, even really nice sweet strawberries like this, because when you start cooking them down, a lot of that sweetness kind of leaches out of the strawberry and that sugar just kind of brings it back a little bit. So next up, we're going to just do plain strawberries in water with a little bit of sugar. And we're gonna try it 3 different ways. We're gonna try it with just water and a little bit of sugar, but just water without lemon juice or citric acid. We're going to try it with some lemon juice, and we're also gonna try it with citric acid. And the reason for this is I just want to experiment with which one is best for retaining color, flavor, and texture with our strawberries. And I'm going to can in quart jars for our plain strawberries. And I am going to do 5 quarts. Add our whole strawberries. I do recommend doing this with whole strawberries, even if you're doing a pie filling. They just hold their shape and their texture. They don't get quite as mushy if you do them whole like this. Is there anything more summer than strawberries? I don't know that there is. The smell, the color, the flavor, everything about them is awesome. So the challenge I'm going to have here is being able to determine which jar has what in it because I'm not going to be able to tell just by looking at them. So I am one of those people that I think I'm going to remember things that I don't unless I write them down. So when I put these into the canner, I'll just make a little map for myself and where each one of them is, and then when I take them out, I'll write on the lids, because if I write on the lids when they go into the canner, it's just going to come off anyway. So there's our strawberries. We are going to do lemon juice, citric acid, plain water. Let's do 2 lemon juice and 2 citric acid. This this is what citric acid looks like, just a white powder if you haven't seen it before. I'm just going to get my kettle going to add boiling water to those. And as you can see, I have my electric pressure canner back here, which doubles as a water bath canner, and it is heating up. So I do want to make sure that I'm using boiling water in these so that I can get these jars heating up before I go stick them in the hot water of the canner. So I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice to the ones that we're adding lemon juice. And then nothing to this one. So what we're gonna look for when we have these done is color, texture, and flavor. Paper and pen for marking down when these go in, because honestly, friends, if I don't do it right away, I am going to forget. And I know this about myself, so that's all ready to go. I'm just giving these strawberries another stir, and they're already starting to get juice out of them and just look beautiful and glossy. Okay, we are going to top off our jars. I find as long as my jars are warm, and these are still warmish from just being washed earlier, work fine for boiling water to be poured in them without the jars cracking. I know I always talk about needing to make sure that everything's the same temperature, but as long as your jars are warmish, they should be fine. Look at how beautiful that looks. Hope it stays that way. Okay, I'm going to add a tablespoon of sugar to each of these jars. And I should have done this at the beginning, but I didn't, so we're gonna add it now. Wash our rims off, and then we're gonna lid these, and they are gonna go into our water bath canner for 10 minutes. Okay, citric acid in first. Okay, we have a lot of strawberries left here. Lots of strawberries left. So, what should we do next? Let's get a plain strawberry jam together. So the strawberries that I have over there that are sitting in the sugar, those are going to be used for our mango jam and our vanilla jam. But I'm also going to make some just plain strawberry jam. My kids have requested that I make it a little bit thicker than I did last year, so I'm going to be adding some pectin this year. Normally what I do is I just cook it down until it's thick enough and then I jar it up, but they've requested it thicker. So I will be adding some pectin to that. But I'm also going to make a strawberry pancake syrup, and all that basically is sugar and strawberries cooked together until it's the texture that you like. And then in this case, I'm going to blend them up because I want it to be a nice smooth pancake syrup, and then we're just gonna can it up. So really, really simple. But let's get some more strawberries going in sugar for our plain. You know, since I'm going to be doing the syrup too, I might as well just do a whole bunch this way. So we'll add sugar here. So I would recommend doing this even the night before you're going to be doing your canning. It just saves you the extra step and the waiting time. We didn't get back until later last night, so I didn't get around to doing that. So I'm not gonna have these sitting for as long as I would normally do, but this will work just fine. So I am going to dice up some of these strawberries before I get these sitting in, or any more of these strawberries sitting in sugar, waiting for other recipes. I'm going to do enough up right now to do 4 trays in my freeze dryer. So I'm going to dice them because I thought that having them diced would be just kind of a nice size for freeze-dried strawberries to add to things like oatmeal or yogurt or into muffin recipes. Normally what I will do is just slice them and freeze-dry them that way. You can even freeze-dry them whole, but I thought this would be a good way to do it. So it's going to be an experiment since I've never done it this way before, but I'm sure it'll work just fine. 1 tray down, 2 trays, and 4. No, this isn't 4, this is 3. And 4. Okay, I was going to use my blender for doing the mango and for doing the strawberries that I want to have more pureed, but I decided since this is already dirty, I'm going to use this instead. I'm just going to switch out. Instead of using my dicing blade, I'll just use my chopping blade. Okay, so for the strawberry mango jam, all we need is 1 pound of strawberries and 2 pounds of fully ripe mangoes. So I found this guide in the Pomona's book that was so handy for figuring out how many of each fruit or berry that you would need to equal the number of pounds that you need for your recipe. So in this case, it says for 1 pound of mangoes, you need 2 small mangoes. So I'm going to be doubling this recipe, and we need 2 pounds of mangoes. These are large mangoes. I do have a couple of smaller ones as well. So we'll chop all those ones up. Like I said, I can play around a little bit with these recipes with using the Pomona's pectin, but please remember that if you're going to use regular pectin, you really need to follow the recipe exactly. This is so soft. I'm actually able to peel this one by hand, which is very handy. Literally. Okay. And we're just going to take our mango flesh and put it right into our food processor here. I'm going to be using my steam canner to do these as well. So my steam canner is back over there, and it cans the same way or with the same instructions as a water bath canner. So if you have to water bath can for 10 minutes, you're going to steam can for 10 minutes as well. I say this all the time, but I love the steam canner because it takes very little time to heat up, and you don't need very much water. We decided not to do pigs this year, and I have to admit, I really miss having them from the perspective that they will eat so many things that chickens will not eat. So these peels, mango peels, pigs would absolutely love. Chickens will not. So they go in the compost instead. So we want 4 cups of the mango here, which I think we probably have not quite that much, close. So we have just under. So I will compensate for the lack of the mango with a little bit more strawberry in here, but these mangoes were so ripe and so sweet and full of flavor that I'm sure it's going to be just fine. So now we're going to add strawberries into here, and we are going to have such a sticky mess by the time we are finished. We're going to use some of our sugar and strawberries here. I'm going to regret using my hands for this, but doing it anyway. It's going to be so sticky. So we're going to add 5 cups of strawberry. That's perfect. We're going to bring this up to a boil on the stove. And for our pectin, we need there's 2 different steps to this. There is the actual pectin powder, which we have right here. And then there is calcium water, and this is calcium water. So I usually make a batch of calcium water up at the beginning of jam making season, and then I just keep it in the fridge, and then I can just take out what I need. So for this recipe, we need, you can use regular pectin for this, or if you're using Pomona's, we need 3 teaspoons of our calcium water and 2.5 teaspoons of our Pomona pectin powder. When you are mixing your pectin actually in with your jam, you want to have it pre-mixed into a little bit of sugar first, otherwise it goes a little bit chunky in your jam. So yes, Pomona's pectin does require a little bit more, a few more steps. And we're just going to mix our pectin into our sugar If you're wanting a really fresh tasting jam with a little bit of texture, then just boil this for a couple of minutes and then move on with your pectin. If you want it to be a little bit smoother, then you can let it cook down a little bit more before you add your pectin. I am gonna let it cook down a little bit more because I do want a little bit of a smoother jam. While that's coming up to a boil, I am going to try to clean up this mess a little bit here. We're gonna add 4 tablespoons of lemon juice as well, and that will help retain the color to our jam once this is cooked down a little bit. Just about messed up there because I started taking them out without paying attention to my little map here. So I'll just let those cool down first. So far, I honestly don't notice any difference in any of them, but we'll let it sit for a few minutes and then we'll take a closer look. I also wrote down on the paper the way that I put them on the counter because I have to wait till they seal before I can write on the tops of them. So hopefully I did that right. So the single batch of this recipe does call for a cup of sugar. Because I already have probably, I would say, 1/2 cup of sugar in with the amount of sugar that was already coating those strawberries, I am just going to be adding 1/2 cup of sugar to this recipe because those mangoes were also so sweet. I'll play around with that. I'll test the flavor of it, and if I have to add some more sugar, then I will. You will find the more sugar you add to a recipe like this, the richer the color becomes. Without a lot of sugar, it doesn't have that kind of really rich strawberry jam look. It is better for you, so I guess there's that. 4 teaspoons of lemon juice. And 3 teaspoons of our calcium water here. And I'm going to grab a whisk to whisk in our pectin and our sugar. And it's already starting to thicken up. So we're going to keep whisking this vigorously for about a minute or so until this comes back up to a boil again. I'm going to pull these strawberries over here off and put our, actually, you know what? No, we'll just use our electric canner and I'll keep cooking these. We'll do this jam into pint jars. Okay, I'm just gonna defoam this a little bit. So strawberry jam, when you're cooking it, it will get foamy like that. So we're just gonna take that off. What my mom used to do back in the old days, sorry mom, is she would add a little bit of butter to that and that would help defoam it. So a little bit of water and white vinegar to get the sticky stuff off these jars. So sometimes, even though I've been doing this forever and I have a really good strategy for keeping it manageable, I can start feeling a little, I don't know if overwhelmed is the right word, probably is the right word. And so what I do when I feel like that, unless I'm right in the middle of something that really needs to be dealt with, is I'll just pause, stop, put my feet up for a little bit, have a cup of tea, go for a walk out in the garden, something like that, just to sort of recenter my mind with the project again. And that really does help. So old-fashioned potato masher. Okay, that's too time consuming. Let's go to the food processor. So this batch that I'm gonna do here is gonna be our jam, and then I'm going to start another batch over here that'll be our syrup. Okay, for our next recipe, this is the vanilla bean strawberry jam. We need 8 cups of strawberries. 7, 8. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of vanilla bean paste to this. I wasn't able to find any vanilla beans at the store, so vanilla bean paste it is, which smells absolutely incredible. the zest and the juice of 2 lemons. The base recipe for this calls for 4 cups of sugar, which would be 8 in this case. So we're actually going to add 4 because we can have it since we are using the Pomonas. Oh, my lid's over here. I think it's time for me to take a break. We'll get this jam, both of these jams going, and then before we get into the syrup, I'm gonna sit and have a little bit of a break, and then we'll get back at it. Okay, our plain strawberry jam over here is just about ready to add the pectin to. I'm going to be adding a extra cup of sugar and 3 teaspoons of pectin and 2.5 teaspoons of calcium water to this one. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of calcium water to this one, and then I'm going to add 1/2 cup of sugar and 2.5 teaspoons of our pectin to this one. So we're just about there. And again, we're just going to let this boil vigorously for a couple of minutes just to allow that sugar and the pectin to dissolve. And then we'll get this one jarred up. Pints out of that. We have a minute left on our timer for our mango strawberry jam. All right, we have our jam here is ready. So I'm gonna let that just come down and then I'll skim all the foam off the top. Our plain strawberry jam is looking just gorgeous, just beautiful. So it's coming up to a boil now. So I'm gonna add our calcium water to here. Okay, I have my strawberry jam over here that I'm going to be jarring up. So this is just the plain strawberry. And now I have my syrup over here. So into this syrup, I'm going to add, if I can find it, my kitchen's getting a little out of control, as usual. So I'm going to add, I don't know, around 1/4 cup or so of lemon juice to this. And because this is going to be a syrup, I'm actually going to do the same amount of sugar as to the amount of sauce. So I'm just gonna eyeball it, or the amount of strawberries rather. I'm just going to eyeball it, but I have probably 10 cups of berry sauce in here. So I just ran the berries through the blender, and now I'll add the sugar.
Oh, it smells good.
It does smell good, doesn't it?
Strawberries are my favorite.
There are a couple on the counter there you can eat if you want. A couple of actual just strawberries. All right, so all I have to do now is jar up the syrup and get that processed as well. So I'm processing all of these for 10 minutes in either the water bath canner over there or the steam canner here. So I'll be back with you when I am all finished. I have decided to save these strawberries here to make strawberry shortcake later, because strawberry shortcake is one of my favorite childhood desserts. So I'm gonna do that. I'm not sure if I'll be able to share that with you in this video, but I will in an upcoming video for sure. I'll be back with you in a couple seconds for you, probably 30 or 40 minutes for me, and show you what we ended up with when I'm all finished. Hi friends, we are all done. I ended up with 32 more jars of preserves for the pantry, which feels really good, and we did quite a few different varieties of things, which I love to do. So I wanted to show you the difference between the lemon juice, the citric acid, and the plain as far as the strawberries go. Truth be told, there's not really any difference, except I would say, you'll have to tell me what your thoughts are, that the citric acid, which is this one, might be slightly pinker than the one with the lemon juice. And then the plain one, the difference between those two is a little tiny bit more noticeable, but not really. So all in all, the results of this test are that it really doesn't seem to make too much of a difference. I think that they must dye their strawberries, any store-bought canned strawberries that you buy, with food coloring, because I just cannot see how you would make these any redder, unless I suppose you used a really thick syrup for your strawberries. Then with all that extra sugar, it might help to retain the flavor, but either way, they are pretty much all the same. We have our strawberry jam here, which looks beautiful. Strawberry syrup, which looks absolutely fantastic. So we have our strawberry vanilla, which I think looks the prettiest of all of the preserves. and then the mango strawberry, which is obviously quite a bit lighter because it has the mango in it. But all in all, a very successful preservation day. I'm quite happy with the way that all of these turned out, and they all taste delicious. I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me, and remember, if you want to get a copy of my canning guide, click the link below. Hope you all have a fantastic day, everyone, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.